This is Harry Judd for Boxing Social. We are in Telford. I'm delighted to be joined by the man behind the desk, the presenter at this very moment in time. After the press conference, Sahni. Dev, great to have you in the presenting role again for this press conference. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's good to see you, by the way. I'm a big fan of you coming through. Like there's like a new wave of young interviewers, Coogan in the future, kind of young Cougans coming through, and you're one of them. You and old Parsons as well. He's smashing it, and it's good to see.
Yeah, transition period within Boxing Social. I think we're doing pretty well at the moment. But look, sometimes you do press conferences and you try and get as much beef as possible. We love it. We really do. It's why we come to these press conferences. But there is beef there. Liam Davis feels like he's been that no one's given him any sort of respect at all in this fight.
Yeah, look, and that's perfect. I love a Liam Davis presser. When I did the Mark Leach Liam Davis press conference, I wasn't expecting much, but he ended up banging the table and shouting, and he brings fans with him as well to the press conference. They end up getting like, "Hey!" and like chanting for him. So a Liam Davis press conference is actually very fun. And there is genuine needle, or so it would appear. I think there's proper needle between Liam Davis and Josh Burnham, by the way, who is Baluta's trainer, because Burnham made a comment about Liam Davis needing some paracetamol after the fight, and he'd ring him up and he'd say, yeah, I did need it. And Liam Davis didn't like that, and he's gone in on him a little bit, like in separate interviews. But yeah, genuine beef. I love the energy of Baluta. I love that he's calling him a bambino. I love that our translator Lou, who does the social media for Queensbury, he's up there smashing it. He's giving it like he's fighting. So it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I was 1 minute going to sort of be surprised and see you speak in Spanish at some point, but it was just remarkable how that beef continued. But look, Liam has had a remarkable run. Let's say that he's done it the conventional way. I'd say he does deserve this opportunity, and he would definitely say that.
Absolutely. There's not many fighters that would deserve it more. I mean, this is a guy who was an English champion down at bantamweight. He's a British champion now at super bantamweight, and it's not like it was like against someone not any good. He was against Mark Leach, who'd beaten Chris Bork. He's beaten Kes Ashfaq. He won the title against a very, very good fighter. So with that in mind, with a win like that, yeah, you push on and you fight for the European. And he's got an absolute nutcase in front of him in Baluta. Like, it's a very difficult fight. I think so anyway. Liam Davis doesn't, and maybe that's what G's him up so much, that people do think it's a hard fight for him, whereas he doesn't. He thinks he's just going to knock him out. He definitely deserves this, and I love the division as well. Like, you got to think we got Dennis McCann as well. Oh, imagine Liam Davis, Dennis McCann one day. Dennis McCann against Baluta. There's Andrew Kane knocking about between the weights. Sometimes he's super bantam, sometimes he's bantam. Brad Strand in Liverpool, he's doing his thing. Brad Foster, Jason Cunningham, Zolani Tete. Like, there's so many different permutations of fights that would be fantastic to watch.
You've been with Baluta and experienced him. What is he like face to face? What is he like to deal with? You know, what is he as an individual? How is he to deal with?
He seems really calm, to be honest, very relaxed. Like, I went up to his gym, and I don't know if you saw the video where he goes like, "Davis, this is for you," and like punches. That's just because I told him to do it. So away from that, he was just like perfectly normal, perfectly chilled. You heard the story about how he's met his fiancée.
Yeah. Well, it was Thurnham who says that, wasn't it? But talk us through that anyway for the people that haven't seen it.
Yeah. So my understanding is he came over to the UK in one of the lockdown shows to box David Oliver Joyce, and we were in a hotel next to York Hall, and he caught eyes with the receptionist, and he liked what he saw. Clearly, she liked what she saw, and they stayed in touch. And before you know it, they've gone on holiday together, and she's messaging her parents saying, "Look, I ain't coming back. I'm with Baluta." So,
as any woman would.
Look, he's an irresistible young man, I'm sure. But yeah, and then he ended up proposing, and now there's a Mrs. Baluta to be.
Telford, like you said, has become a little bit of a fighting city for you guys, a bit of a fighting home, and we saw a few of Liam Davis' entourage, I'd say, in the crowd today to watch the press conference. What are you expecting Saturday night in terms of atmosphere for Liam Davis?
He says he's done over 1,000 tickets. so there'll be some atmosphere in there. I think it's going to be. I think for that main event in particular, it's going to go bananas. I think that's what they say on the wrestling net. This place has gone bananas. But yeah, I think it's going to be incredible. Great atmosphere in there. I think they're going to boo the hell out of Baluta, and he's going to love it. He loved it when Brad Foster's fans were booing him, were calling him names and all sorts like "you're cool." He takes all of that stuff in his stride, and I think it energises him. So we're going to see a hyped up Liam Davis getting hype off the crowd, and we're going to see a hyped up Baluta getting hyped off the boos. Not off the boos, but off the.
Maybe after, if he wins, I mean, fair play's earned it.
If he's victorious, he may have a drink. If he's not victorious, he may still have a drink. We'll see.
Look, another man on this card is Anthony Yarde. Not seen him out since that win against Lyndon Arthur in December of last year. What do you make of this fight? Because, he did want that Beterbiev fight in October this year, but unfortunately that's scheduled to happen next year. So is there any danger in taking this fight, or should he have gone straight in with Beterbiev? What is the thinking behind this one?
Well, look, he was going to go straight in with Beterbiev when it was October, and that was based on not fighting since December, which is still a bit of a layoff. But you can't go over a year of inactivity and then fight a monster like Beterbiev. And let's talk a little bit about the opponent as well, because Stephanie Koikov, Anthony Yarde would be forgiven for picking someone with a losing record, picking someone who's just coming here to lie down. I don't know what to expect of Stephanie Koikov. Even Anthony said himself, you can't find anything on YouTube of the guy. No, he's come over with a good-looking record. He's got 12 knockouts so far in 15 fights. That's a good record. He sounds game, and it's the quiet ones you've got to watch out for. He didn't say much, maybe because he didn't understand what I was saying to him, but he didn't say much. He's got this quietness about him. There's this demeanour which will put something in Anthony Yarde to make sure he gets the job done. And then all roads lead to Artur Beterbiev, and that is the fight. That's incredible. And Anthony Yarde gets a chance at 3 of the 4 light heavyweight belts. That's right, isn't it? It's 3, yeah.
There's been things reported in terms of the 28th of January at Wembley Arena, London next year. Can you give any confirmation of that?
Stay tuned.
To be honest, it's the worst kept secret out there, Dev, to be honest. You might as well do it now.
I can't say.
I'm not going to put you in any trouble. Look, how much, because you've obviously been with Yarde since the very beginning. I spoke to Tunde as well. He's been with him since the very beginning. That fight with Kovalev was a making or make or break, well, not a make or break fight with Anthony Yarde, but the coming of age fight, let's say, at that time. How much has he changed since that fight with Kovalev? Because he's shown he's not afraid to go to someone's backyard at such early on in his career.
Look, he's always had that fire in him. He's always brave and fearless, and he's always had power, and he will take on anyone. The difference now is that was August 2019. This fight with Beterbiev will be at some point in 2023. So yeah, that's kind of like 3.5 years later, and the experience that he's had since that. So imagine that Anthony Yarde heading into Russia to fight Kovalev. He hadn't taken any losses at that point, but he hadn't really been extended too many rounds either. He's got more wrinkles to his game now. He's been through ups, he's been through downs, both inside and outside the ring. He's a 31-year-old man at this point. Is he going to get much better? I don't think so. This is going to be prime Anthony Yarde at this point. He's not some young buck going into it sort of without knowing what's going to be there. He's experienced so much, and he'd have learnt so much from that Kovalev fight because he had him out of there. And maybe if, on another day, he could have got him out there. Another referee could have waved it off, but wasn't meant to be. So he's got that experience now, knowing that if you've got him wobbling, maybe you don't just go in for the kill, maybe you wait a little bit. But I just don't know. If he gets Beterbiev wobbled in early rounds, he might just go in for the kill, and I think he has to.
It's full steam ahead at the moment, isn't it, for Queensbury? Next week, a massive show at the O2. Your interview with John Ryder has gone around, and so it should. It's very powerful. Just take me through how you felt about that interview and how it went with you, because John Ryder was very open in what he said in that conversation with yourself.
Yes, it surprised me, to be honest. I'd never met him before, but sometimes you just vibe with someone. I know that he's a nice bloke. I'd like to think I'm a nice bloke, and sometimes you're
a very nice bloke, Dave. You are.
I'm trying. Sometimes when we're a similar sort of age as well. Sometimes when people like that sit down together, you can have a good chat. And he was just open, and he just told me. I listened to his life story with Tris Dixon beforehand as well, and that was a good hour and a half or so. So I had plenty in the bank, and I felt like I do this before big interviews. I feel like I try and get to know them, so I've got their voice in my head. But yeah, no, it was good. It was amazing. Some of the things that he said about Jack Arnfield, and in that fight, he just wanted to be knocked out. He wanted to be put out of his misery because he was just done with boxing at that point. And the crucial thing he said to me was, I wanted him to knock out because I knew I wouldn't quit. So even in that, he can't quit. He wants to be knocked out instead. Amazing. And I urge anyone who hasn't watched it to watch it.
No, definitely. And as well, someone else who's done an extremely powerful interview was Tyson Fury with Carl Frampton. Now, I've been one that's been, and many boxing fans have been a bit frustrated with Tyson, with the social media and the deadlines, etc. we had with him. But that sit down with Carl Frampton, I think people saw such a different side to Tyson. But tell me what you got from that chat with Frampton and Tyson.
I think, look, sometimes he goes into an interview as the Gypsy King, right? And the Gypsy King will be like, I'm going to knock you out, you're all bums and things like that. You're all bums, you're all dossers. Which are great interviews, and everyone enjoys them, and it's entertainment, and it's helped build his character. What Carl Frampton got was Tyson Fury, and Tyson Fury was a man that sat in front of Carl Frampton there, 34 years old. Carl Frampton, they're about the same sort of age. He sat there as a man who's been through a lot, who's been through ups and downs, a man with flaws, a man with all sorts of characteristics, and he just opened up his heart. And that's the best that's the best Tyson Fury to get, when it's Tyson Fury and he'll tell you anything. I went to see him up the other day as well in Morecambe, and had a similar sort of chit chat where he'll just tell you anything, and he can be very raw and honest about it, and his journey, it's so compelling, and his life has become really an open book. I mean, he's written books about his life. Yeah, he's on his hat trick of books. So, I thought it was a compelling, excellent interview. Shout out to Carl Frampton. He's fantastic at that role. He's transitioned so brilliantly from fighter to broadcaster. It's almost seamless. And I didn't see any notes in his hands or anything like that. I saw a pen in his hand. I didn't see him reading off his questions. I saw him just having a chat with Tyson Fury, and it was brilliant.
Yeah, because, it's been said previously, when is it time to hang up your gloves? I mean, John wanted Tyson to retire, I think, a couple of years ago after Deontay Wilder. Tyson said there's always going to be someone else. There's always going to be someone else. And what Tyson said, that the only person who beats Tyson Fury is Tyson Fury. Do you agree with that?
I mean, I guess so. I mean, I know what he means by that, and he's told me before that he thinks that he's going to end up being put out of his misery, and that's going to be how he ends his boxing career. So being put out of your misery means you're gone.
No. I was like, weird. What do you mean by that?
Well, I guess that means he'll go out on a loss, go out on his back potentially, because he can't leave the sport. He tried to leave the sport. He's tried to retire. In that time after the Dillian White fight, you could have done a lie detector test, and it would have been perfectly fine. He thought he'd retired, and he couldn't adjust to life without boxing. He does all the training in the world, trains 2 times a day. There was no target, there was no beating drum of boxing in the background, and he struggled with that. So if you always need boxing, but you're getting older, and you've got more and more miles on the clock, and suddenly the fighters that you're in with, your mandatory challengers are, at some point, he's going to be in against someone who's 10 years younger than him, who's coming to win and coming to knock him out. And that's where boxing may end up retiring him.
You mentioned mandatory challenges, etc. The IBF have ordered that Usyk defends his IBF belt against Filip Hrgović. First of all, in your opinion, does that affect... Well, obviously, if that comes into fruition, it will affect, but do you think whether the undisputed between Tyson and Usyk will overpower that? How do you see that one going, mate?
I'm going to swerve this one because I don't know enough about it. It's one for Frank and for George for them to kind of determine the pieces of the puzzle.
But hypothetically, let's say, because we're both boxing people, you work within boxing, etc. If Usyk just vacates the belt, it not only does it it diminishes the belt, doesn't diminish the fight. Those two could arguably fight with no belts. Would it still have the same pizzazz, the same build-up, or the same meaning if there's no belts on the line?
I don't know. I mean, look, it's clearly a fight between the number one and I don't know, because I've got Joyce at number 2, I've got Wilder. It's clearly a fight between the number 1 and number 4, heavyweights in the world. I don't know. I don't know how the situation's gonna play out. I look forward to seeing it. No one seems particularly panicked about it. We'll see.
And finally then, we got to see Tommy Fury in the ring last weekend. Again, rumours speculating we could see Jake Paul in the UK February, March. I know you can't give any confirmation on it or any talk on it because obviously you're not involved in those conversations, but how confident are you that that fight happens?
I hope so. I'll cross my fingers like you'll, I'm sure, cross your fingers. I think it just needs to happen now because their names are going to be forever linked until it happens. To be honest, all that stuff in Dubai built the fight. 100% it built the fight. You can say what you like about it, but suddenly there's pictures up on Sport Bible of John Fury trying to attack Jake Paul, topless, and Tommy Fury kicking the bottom of the rope and all that. All of that stuff builds the fight. It's huge right now, so I hope to see it.
I think that's a stadium fight?
I don't know. I mean, it is big. It's very, very big. Depends on the stadium, but it's a big one. And things like that. There's not many things that suddenly make it as a clean Instagram post on the Sport Bible. This is a page that everyone follows, right? Sports fans follows. Things like that are little indicators to me as to the size of the fight and the characters involved. So could it do a stadium? We'll see.